your seats. Take your seats. There is no Easter egg hunt planned at this time. Yeah, real quick, yell out, what's the best thing you've ever found in an Easter egg? Money, how much, who has found more than $10 in an Easter egg? Who's found more than 10? Who's found more than $20 in an Easter egg? Dang, how much did you find before? 25, 30? Dang, one time I found $100 in an Easter egg, not even kidding. I hope that's how the Easter egg hunt goes tomorrow at my in-laws' house. But my name is Matt. I'm one of the pastors here. Thank you guys for coming Easter weekend. As Christians, this is kind of, we call this like our Super Bowl weekend. Like that's what Easter is to us. Like that is prime time. So thank you guys for coming tonight. Is there any Hulu fans out in the crowd? Hulu. Anybody watch Hulu? What about Netflix? You guys like Netflix over Hulu? Okay, some people. That is like my wife and I's favorite thing to do. Like, just after a long day at like work and all that, go home, just turn it on, eat like some Chinese takeout, those salt and pepper wings from that little Chinese spot. Those are fire. But we love watching Hulu and Netflix. There's this show, this is one of our favorite shows. Has anybody in here seen Prison Break? Any Prison Break fans in the house? I love, I've watched that thing like 4 times. Finally showed it to my wife. She loved it. But real quick, let me tell you about Prison Break without ruining it. There's this guy named Michael, and his brother is in jail, obviously. You can tell by Prison Break, right? And so Michael does whatever it takes to get into jail so he can go save his brother. Michael gave up literally the comfort of life, of freedom, of whatever he had going on, his job, just so he can go in and try and save his brother. And I love movies and TV shows like this, right? Where you see like this sacrifice out of love, right? This, we call it sacrificial love, where you love somebody so much, you're like, I'll give whatever it takes just for that person. We're going to kind of be talking about this tonight. We're in this series called Sometimes God Doesn't Make Sense. And tonight, kind of the title of the message, what we're talking about is why would God kill his son? Just by raising your hands, have you ever wondered that before? You've read the Bible, you've heard some of the stories. You're like, God, why would you kill your son? Like, that makes no sense. And I actually think there's a better way to answer this question, right? Not just, God, why would you kill your son? But kind of how I read it in the Bible is, wait, Jesus, why would you give your life for somebody? And this whole Prison Break story is not as much as what Jesus did. And that's what we're talking about tonight. That's why we celebrate this weekend, is Jesus gave his life for you, for me, for all of us. Why would he do that? Live this perfect life to just give it all away. And we actually see in the Bible, God allowed that to happen. What kind of father would allow his son to die for people who weren't even around yet? So that's what we're going to kind of be talking about tonight. Tim shared last week out of this book called John. We were in chapter 10, verse 10, right? He talked about why Jesus came to this earth. That Jesus came to fill us up. That Jesus came to fill us up so we can overflow with love. And that we can go love others. And we're going to actually be in that same chapter, just the very next verse tonight. I think we're going to throw it on the screen. If you have the Bible app, or if you have the Eastlake Church app, open that up now. There's a spot for notes. It's got all the verses. But I'll read it. It says, that next thing Jesus said was, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. Right? The good shepherd laid down his life for his sheep. And Tim talked about sheep and why this verse. And just real quick, sheep were kind of the animal of that time. They were known as, don't get offended, but kind of dumb. They kind of just followed along. They followed what all the other sheep were doing. They kind of just wandered around. And I'm like, God, why would you call us sheep, first off? But that makes perfect sense, right? We tend to wander around. We tend to just follow the crowd sometimes, and instead of using our own brain that God gave us to make our own decisions sometimes. Sheep were very timid, and they were very stubborn at that time too, right? They were timid and stubborn. Anybody sitting next to a stubborn person in here? You just raise your hands. Damn. But the cool thing about sheep is sheep would be lost without their shepherd. Sheep would be lost without their shepherd. And I think that's just such a key part of what Jesus is saying here. Jesus is telling his disciples, Jesus is telling all of these people who follow around, you guys would be lost without me. My wife and I last night watched this movie, The Passion. Anybody ever seen that? We watched that last night. She covered her eyes in the entire movie because it's too bloody. But we're watching this, and it just shows this perfect picture of Jesus in a movie form. Right? And that's exactly what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about the death of Jesus. And so he is saying before he dies right here, I am the good shepherd. In verse 18 says, no one takes it from me, but I lay down my own accord. I have the authority to lay it down, and I have the authority to take it up again. This charge I have received from my Father. You see, God didn't kill his son, but Jesus is saying right here, I'm laying down my life. I'm laying down my life for the people that are around me. I'm laying down my life for the people that are coming. I'm laying down my life for everybody. God didn't kill me. My Father didn't kill me, but he allowed me to take on the death for the people. And one word pops in my head during this, right? That word is love. If we're trying to answer this question, why would Jesus give up his life? It's all for love. Because he loves us. The Bible talks about God so loved the world that he gave his son. And Jesus is saying right here, no one takes it for me, but I lay down my own life. I raise my hand and I'm saying, I'll give up my life for people. And that's just crazy to me. But love is the reason. Love is the reason we do crazy things, right? Has anybody ever done something crazy for love? I know I have. But I know I did in a long distance relationship for like 2.5 years. That was crazy. You owe me a new car, by the way, wife. I'm just kidding. But we do crazy things for love. And Jesus did the craziest thing. He gave up his entire life. And he did that to save us. And you might be sitting there and like, Matt, like really, isn't that being dramatic? Like, save me from what? Like, what did I need to be saved from? Anybody hear this word before called sin? Anybody ever hear that word? Sin? Well, we're going to rewind in the Bible back to this time when the earth was absolutely perfect. God just created it. And it's called the Garden of Eden. And in that garden was man. God created, his name was Adam. Right? And God was like, man, you're not good enough. I'm going to create a woman called Eve. Right, women? So the guys weren't good enough. So God said, you need a partner. You need somebody to go through life with. It's not good to be alone. I'm going to create you a partner named Eve. Even Adam were living this perfect life that they were created for, even more perfect than Jay-Z and Beyonce on Instagram. And they lived this life, and in this garden, there were all of these trees that popped up, and God said, the only rule is you cannot eat from this one tree. So what did Adam and Eve do? They ate, thank you, Ashley, they ate from the tree, right? And that's that cookie jar thing, right? When your mom says, you can have a fruit, you can have this, just don't have a cookie before your dinner. What are you going to run to? You're running to that cookie jar like, wait, let me make sure. These are the Girl Scout cookies, like the Thin Mints that just came out of the freezer. Anybody know what I'm talking about? And your mom looks away, you reach in, and you get caught. Right? And what Adam and Eve tried to do is they tried to hide from God, which doesn't work very well. So they got caught. That was called sin. They disobeyed from what God commanded. And therefore it set up the entire history that we disobey, right? And you're like, well, I never disobeyed God like that before. Anybody think that? Like, I never really sinned. I never did anything bad. Jesus says some crazy things in the Bible, y'all. Like literally, Jesus like, have you ever thought bad about somebody before? Have you ever gossiped about somebody before? Have you ever disobeyed your parents before? Sometimes we think sin is just the really bad stuff. We think sin is just when we turn on the TV and see the news, the next murder that happened, the car chase that's going on. We're like, those are sinners. But even the bad thoughts we have in our head, even the times we're gossiping about somebody behind their back is sin. And so what sin actually did at this time had separated humans from God, right? There was a separation from humans and from God, and we couldn't reach out to God. So we call it the Old Testament, they had to sacrifice. Usually these lambs, they had to sacrifice the lambs. There had to be blood spilt to help draw them near to God. They had to say, God, we're going to give up. Because back then, these lambs, whatever they sacrificed was worth a lot of money. That's actually their currency back then. They used animals. Like, I'll trade you. My currency when I was a kid was Pokemon cards. But back then, their currency was these animals. And so there had to be this blood spilt. And so we're going to rewind back. There's actually 3 words I want to talk about tonight. These are big words, and I'm not a vocabulary person. I'm not good with especially spelling. I'm a horrible speller. But I'm not good with vocabulary. But sometimes I think there's meaning behind words, right? Sometimes these words, and I think these 3 words we're going to talk about, they mean everything, because these are what helps us get back to God when there's that separation. That first word, if you want to write it down or put it in your notes, is called reconciliation. Say that 5 times fast. I'm just kidding, don't really do it. But that literally means to restore a broken relationship. Remember, there's this separation between us and God, and there needed to be a bridge. And that was Jesus. This is one of the reasons why Jesus died on the cross. He died this brutal death. It wasn't just a sit in the electric chair type of death, but whipped and beat up and spit on. And he died so that there can be a gap he can fill between us and God. He says that he is the only way for us to get back to God. And he had to fill that gap. And I started thinking about that word restored. And I'm like, sometimes like when a relationship gets restored, it's better than it was before. Right? Have you ever seen like a car being restored? Sometimes it looks even better than the car originally looked. You got that inside that's got a brand new stereo. You got this doesn't work, but back when I was younger, it was the spinning wheels. Those were the cool things. You know what I'm talking about, Tim? It was But sometimes relationships are even greater after they've gone through some turmoil, right? And so what Jesus did was came and he lived perfectly and he died so this relationship can be restored. It can be fixed. And so that is why Jesus died. He came to fix the relationship. all because of love. All right, the second word I want you guys to write down, remember, is called justification. I know that's a really big word, called justification. And that means just as I never sinned. So Jesus not only fixes this relationship, but then he died so it's like we never even sinned. Our sins from our past, our sins from our present, and our sins from our future. It's like we've never sinned. You got a clean slate. Like God does not hold it against you. He just forgets about it. He's like, that never even happened. So we use this word justification. Jesus died, he restored the relationship. Jesus died, he made it so the sin never happened. And what I love about this word, anybody watch those court shows, like Law and Order and those kind of things? Right when you're in court, I want you to picture this. God is the rightful judge, right? God is the judge. In your sitting, you sinned, right? So you messed up, you made a mistake. You're sitting in this courtroom. On the other side, you have Satan. The Bible calls him the accuser. He's like, but Matt did this sin, and this sin, and this sin. It just starts naming all of your sins. He talked back to his mom at this time. He thought lustfully this time. He gossiped about that person at school this time. And Satan's accusing you of all of these sins. And God's like, I love you, but you did that. You made those mistakes. And what you deserve is death. What you deserve is this place called HE double hockey sticks. Right? That's what you deserve based on the crime. But then somebody, bam, kicks down the doors, walks into the courtroom, and said, I will take the punishment for them. I'll take it for you. That's exactly what Jesus did. He took on our punishment. He took on everything we've done and said, I will take the punishment, just let them go free. When we say yes to Jesus and when we say, I'm all in for you, God, this is what happens. The relationship is restored. Jesus takes on our punishment, gives us a clean slate, says you are free. You don't owe anybody anything because it's already been paid. And then we get to this third word called sanctification. Sanctification. This means when we become more like Jesus. Each day we're becoming more like Jesus. And one of my favorite ways to explain this is taking a step towards Jesus, right? Because when you take a step towards Jesus, you're taking a step away from sin. You're taking a step away from sin. And so Jesus died so that we can live like him. Jesus died so we can live our life the way he designed us to live. The way he designed us to live. And so the cool thing about this is we get to do this together, right? Jesus created this thing called church. This thing called church where you don't got to be a Christian by yourself. You don't have to be the only Christian at your school. You don't have to walk through life and say, man, this Christian thing's really hard. Man, I'm trying, God, I'm trying. See, that separates religion from relationship. Religion just says, try hard, try hard, try hard. Do this, do this, do this. You're never going to be good enough until you're perfect. Relationship says the perfect person already did it so that you can live your life the way you were created to live. And that's why Jesus gave his life. Jesus gave his life so that we can live ours. And you're like, I know this, I've heard this before. This is something we have to remind ourselves of every day. It doesn't matter if you've grown up in church or if this is your very first time ever in church. Jesus died for this. And people are like, you take this Christian thing really, really serious. I'm like, heck yeah, because Jesus took it really, really serious when he died for me. Jesus didn't die for me so that I can live one day at church and live a different way at school. Jesus didn't die for me so that I can be labeled as the hypocrite. That's not why Jesus died. Jesus died so I can live the way he designed and created me to live. And it gets really, really hard. I know that. We go through tough trials. Anybody ever been through something hard in their life? Anybody at all? Actually, for this example, I need a volunteer to come up. I need a volunteer. All right, Sophie, come up for this. So I have for you, see, I needed a volunteer. You guys get all scared. I have actually this $20 bill for you, just to keep. But first, hold on. Do you still want this $20 bill if I fold it into these little pieces? Do you still want it? What if I step on it like that and I crumple it up, I throw it on the ground, step on it some more? Do you still want this? Do you still want this? It's not ripped. Do you still want this 20? Oh, wait, hold on, let me. Do you still want that $20 bill? Is it still valuable to you? All right, you can keep it, because it doesn't matter what you've gone through, that $20 bill still has value, right? You can go through a really, really tough season, but you still have value. You can go through a hard time. You can go take a seat. You can go through a really hard time in your life, but you still have value. That $20 bill was stepped on, it was crumpled up, it was nearly ripped, but it still has the same value. Your value is based on what Jesus did, not what you went through. That's why Jesus died. Your value is sewn up into his love. That is why you get to live. You're still valuable. It doesn't matter what you went through. Jesus went through so much so that we can live. Jesus gave up his entire life, lived perfectly. I'm going to keep saying that because that's his entire mission. For 33 years on this earth, he was made fun of for part of it. He was mocked for part of it. He had this really big following and then was sold out by one of his best friends. Literally, Jesus went to go pray in the garden and was taken captive. Jesus went through a really, really bad season, but he did that for us. And he hung there on the cross after being beaten with blood coming down his face and said, I'm doing this out of love for you. So tonight, we want to declare this. If you, for the first time, maybe the second time, maybe the 100th time, say, I want to follow Jesus. Jesus, like, I want to follow you. I see what you went through for me. I've never felt loved before. And then you did this. You died on the cross for me. That's why we celebrate. We celebrate Jesus for what he went through. We celebrate Jesus for giving us value through what he did. We're going to actually have a song to just kind of reflect on this, to reflect on what Jesus did. This song's gonna play, and then I'll come back up here and I'll dismiss us. But I want you guys to think about Jesus. Really, really think about what he did. And if you're like, today, I want to say I'm a Christian. I want to place my faith in Jesus. The first thing we do is we understand what Jesus did. And then the second thing is we give our life to him saying, I want to follow. And then the third thing is we live like Jesus. So I want you to reflect on that as we go into this next song, and then I'll come back up here and dismiss us.